Welcome back to Chris and Retro. It's been a couple days since I was able to record here. We had a big storm come through Western New York and caused us some issues with the internet and everything else. And I've tried this video a couple times, couldn't get it uploaded. So we'll try again. I'd get about halfway through and we'd start having some problems. So welcome back to the show. I'll probably have some new viewers based on the content I'm going to share today. But I came across something that was really impactful for me. I hope, and I want to share it with you, and I hope it's useful. So the last video I shared with you was on beef, and basically my premise is that we're constantly causing these public debates and issues, and we even did it back in the Civil War day where we were going tit for tat on free states versus slave states, and nobody's really making any progress. We're just battling, and ultimately turned into war. Same thing happened in our society today. We do a lot of hype around fights. You look at YouTube, it almost promotes these arguments so that you can actually get people to come to your channel because of this big stir that's going on, usually between public figures. And I certainly had hoped that my channel would never be that way, but one of the videos I had viewed quite a bit was me making comments about another YouTube channel that I felt like handled things like a baby. So it does work, and I find it to be not sustainable, basically, is what my last video was. It's not sustainable for you to use that as a marketing ploy, and it's not sustainable for you to hold up if you're continually causing drama and problems. I offered some ways that we could look beyond those, and possibly some ways we can resolve drama and resolve these conflicts, or beefs, so to speak. Well, lo and behold, I created that video and put the content out there for you. And along comes an unlikely source of another option that I thought was handled in an excellent way. And I wish I'd had it before I made the video, because I certainly would have presented this as probably a best in class way of handling public conflict. Now, if I were to give you a few guesses on where I found this source of help and hope when it comes to conflict, you would definitely you won't guess it. But if you'd probably think it's like a clergy member or some kind of a nonprofit, or some kind of maybe some person that operates based on a peaceful, earthy platform, and that is not the case. So I found it in the unlikely source of the motorcycle club culture, and not from clubs themselves, but from some public YouTube figures that what I thought did, at least one in particular, did an excellent job in resolving a public, if let's just say debate. It wasn't really a conflict, but public commentary that could have been it was pretty inflammatory. So I'm going to share with you a few things to give you an idea of what I'm talking about and who I'm talking about. So it's really involving three parties. And the Black Dragon Biker TV, he has been around for quite a while. I've watched the Black Dragon. He was probably my first motorcycle club genre channel that I've ever seen. And I really enjoyed him. When he first started, he would basically do it off his phone, and had cowboy hat on, and his all of his rings, and he would talk about club culture in such an articulate way. I just really enjoyed watching his view on motorcycle club life, and so he had me hooked right at the beginning based on how he presented himself, and I've been watching him ever since. The second channel that's involved in this situation is an acquaintance of mine. He's been on our show, and I think a lot of him. We spoke highly of him on a number of occasions here, and that's Hard Intentions and Mitch Smiley. Mitch Smiley came out a while ago, well, about a week ago probably, and he made a public statement, as Mitch can. He can be pretty opinionated about people at times, and made an opinion based on, I think the heart of his opinion is something that all three parties in this would absolutely agree with. I think they would all be on the same page, knowing their backgrounds and knowing what they talk about publicly and profess publicly. Mitch's position was that there was one individual that was, quote unquote, pimping the patch. And basically what that means is using a motorcycle club logo or patch for personal or financial gain, especially if you have not put your blood, sweat, tears, and time into those clubs. I've been riding motorcycles since I was a kid. I am not affiliated with any motorcycle club, have not, partly because I don't have any interest in spending my life dedicated to that. These guys put their entire life to the club, and many of them lose their lives or their freedom because of it. So if for people to go out and get financial gain off of something that people are willing to make that kind of investment in, and all they want to do is get the benefit from it, I can understand why people would be very upset with that. And Mitch, his perspective was as if this was being done on another YouTube channel. The third individual involved in this is Hollywood with Insane Throttle. It's another large channel. Insane Throttle and Black Dragon Biker TV are both motorcycle club channel genre, whereas Hard Intentions is more what they would call prison channel genre. Now, why am I talking about prison and motorcycle club channels, and am I pimping pimping their brand? No, I'm not. I'm actually hoping that you guys see what I'm trying to accomplish here. And I will share with you what they've done to demonstrate what I consider to be a productive and effective way of handling a conflict. And that's the only reason why I'm sharing them, other than just, to recognize the individuals involved here. So basically what had happened was, um, Mitch put out this video saying that Hollywood with Insane Throttle was quote unquote pimping the patch because he was talking about clubs when he didn't feel he had the right to be benefiting and promoting the clubs, and that he felt there was a bias towards against West Coast clubs. Was basically, that's my take on it. Now he may have meant something else, so Mitch, absolutely, if he meant something else, I apologize for this, but that was what it sort of seemed like. And Black Dragon, he took what I thought was the model behavior on how to handle these conflicts that could escalate. So we're talking about prison personality who's been 38 years in prison for murder. You got Hollywood, who's been around the motorcycle club culture as best I can tell his whole life. I don't know the man, but his profession is that he's been around some serious situations for a long time. Neither one of these guys is going to probably back down from this, and both of them are familiar with violent situations and violence as being an outcome. And Black Dragon certainly is not naive to any of it either. Now I felt handled this, and here is the model that I want my audience to hear. Now, for those just tuning in and just trying to figure out what Chris and Retro is, it's our retrospective look from me and my guests at what we've learned through life that help us either A, avoid total collapse in our high risk situations, or B, find hope and options when things have all gone to heck. And so that comes from, a lot of it's going to come from my own history of addiction, homelessness, but at the same time, some of the high performing behavior I had prior to all that hitting. At the same time, many of my guests come on and share their high performing options for people so that they can find ways beyond their seasons or to avoid high risk. So for those tuning in here, that's what we represent on the channel. And that's why this model that Black Dragon demonstrated is important. Now in the video here, I think I'll call him something like an ambassador because I felt like he handled it well. Black Dragon came into the situation with an opinion. He and later on would state that he felt a little bit hurt by the comments that were made by Mitch, even though they weren't directed at him, because they were touching on similar things that he does in his channel. So here's how he handled it. And this is the model that I thought was good. And I wish I'd had it before I made the other video. The first thing he did was he acknowledged that it was out there. He heard from his viewers that Mitch had made this video. So he acknowledged it was out there. His first response was to go to Hollywood, the person that was being attacked, and talk to him about what he had heard. He got his opinion on that. He interviewed Hollywood about what he had heard and what he said. Hollywood on the other side, so it wasn't just a raw, here's the camera in your face, what do you think? It gave him an opportunity to level set his head and come on and present in a way that he wanted to present himself and his position on it. Now, keep in mind, these guys are these are businesses. When you start getting YouTube channels that are in the 60,000 subscribers and plus, they're their businesses. They're things they're making good money on, and they don't want to soil their whole brand based on coming in like Wyatt Earp. And I felt that Hollywood handled it in a good business way, and that he downplayed it as not the genres don't cross over. It didn't really affect him. There were things that bothered him that he addressed. I didn't watch the whole video, but I watched a portion of the interview, and I felt his tone was really probably the best approach to take from a business standpoint. Black Dragon then took that scenario, he'd already published that video now, and went back and talked to Mitch to get to know Mitch off camera about who he was, what this was all about, and get an understanding of what was going on. He then invited Mitch on the channel, and Mitch, as in his style would, accepted the interview, and they did a 1-hour live on the Black Dragon TV, Biker TV channel. It was an excellent interview. Black Dragon shared his personal offense by it, but not in a way that was inflammatory. He just said, look, it's a problem for me. Where are you coming from? And then he also would zero in on things about Mitch's life, his relationship with his wife and how he was a stand-up guy with her when he got out, and just really focused in on the humanity of who Mitch was rather than the issue at hand. And as a result, he even made a comment that he felt that Hollywood from Insane Throttle and Mitch would probably have been friends in another scenario. Whether they would or not, I don't know. I doubt they'll ever bake bread together. I can't imagine those two personalities coming together. I don't know them all personally, but just from my observation, it doesn't seem like a scenario where they would be able to do that. But it still was a fair setting where everybody got to say their opinion. Now, here's the thing. This is what I love about it. The biggest cop-out in the world, I hate this comment so much, is we agree to disagree. It's so dismissive, because basically if I say I agree to disagree with you, I'm dismissing what you have to say, and I'm just saying I just don't want to hear it anymore. Because the person that says that we'd agree to disagree is passive aggressive and walking away from the conversation. Nobody ever agrees to disagree. Let's get real about that. I can't imagine a situation where you really walk away and go, that felt good. I don't agree with that guy. That feels really good. That's nonsense. What we do is we agree that we disagree and that we are not willing to escalate this any further. That's what an effective way of handling that was. I agree that I don't agree with you and you don't agree with me, but let's not escalate this anymore. Can we at least come to that common ground? And I felt like the way that Black Dragon did this is in two strong personalities in a very public way, gave everybody the option to maintain their space and their power, but give context to the whole conversation. And the context was so important. If politicians would allow for more contextual debates, so they can't get away with running to the media with the next inflammatory comment on its own, standalone, with no supporting evidence around it. And then the response is to get louder on media with standalone, no supporting evidence, no responses around it. If in our personal lives, with our ex-wives and our ex-husbands, with our friends and family, with people that we've spent time in, and when they get out, we want to, disparage them. With all this stuff, if we would actually give ourselves the ability to actually have our strong opinions, state them in a setting that would allow the other person to have their strong opinions and state them with more context around it, I think that we would get away from a lot of trouble and a lot of this noise, and there'd probably be a lot less conflict because we know inevitably we'd be there. Now, I know the great satisfier of a lot of people espouse to the idea that violence solves a lot of problems, and I guess in some cases it does. The tougher guy can always shut up the weaker person, apparently. But in this case, it's not practical, and people don't want to spend time in prison for menial debates. So, Black Dragon, if you're watching this, thanks for modeling something like this. For me, it was useful, and I'm going to challenge myself in these types of things that I get myself into, because people can irritate me. We had a situation with our local school, when my son's school, relative to some debate with the state. There's been a number of issues around the substance use community and how things are handling the homeless community, my family, how being in recovery and my fiance being in recovery, how extended family treats her or us or whatever, or doctors treat us. You name the list of things, I can blow things up. And by doing it this way, where I can stay strong in my opinion, have a voice that's neutral, have it mediated, and have somebody else have their strong opinion and have a voice that's neutral, we can at least get to a place where it doesn't escalate worse, so we can start coming up with options when it's not escalating more. Whether it's your personal life, or whether it's professional, or whether it's on a YouTube channel, or wherever it is, one thing is for sure. If the fight is continually escalating, you're never going to find options for anybody to move forward. You're always going to be in this stalemate of Groundhog's Day of hate and fight. I'm not a peace and love guy. I'm not even proposing that. I think it's an impossibility. However, in these places where we are fighting because we want to make progress, typically we're fighting because we want to deal with something. Let's get to a place where it can be dealt with, even if we don't agree or like each other, even when it's all said and done, but at least not causing more further destruction. I thought it was a good way of handling it. If you don't follow the Motorcycle Club Culture or any one of these channels, fine by me. The model I thought was excellent. Even if you don't follow back up through and see the interviews, they're all out there. They're interesting if you want to watch that drama. I didn't really watch the whole thing because I'm not really in the drama. I like the way that it was being handled. And I'm going to try to challenge myself to handle those types of things like that in the future. One shout out for that culture, for Motorcycle Club Cultures. Check out Demon's Row. Sos the Ghost. He's a Bronx guy. Grew up in the Bronx. I think he's a good dude. We've tried to connect a couple different times, but he's very accessible to his fans and audience, and he's got a good channel. His channel is about the culture, Motorcycle Club Culture as well. However, he talks more on more positive approach to it, how to get clubs to unify more relative to social change and things like that. So his channel takes a slightly different angle. Black Dragon and Insane Throttle, more news. Sos the Ghost is more about cultural change and advancement, and he's trying to be a proponent of that. So hopefully you enjoy those things for entertainment or information or otherwise. Most importantly, like and subscribe to Chris and Retro YouTube. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget, once a month we're going to get back up. We've had a little bit of a stall over the last month trying to get guests in, but I've got some really good guests kicking off 23. So once a month we do our podcast at the Rock Fox Recording Studio and Productions. You'll see that one come up here in January with my next guest, Jesse on Fire. Thanks guys so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you guys soon.